Hi, you're watching Television International. I'm Maryam Namazie. Today is Monday, June 22nd, and we're here to bring you the latest developments and some analysis on what's happening in Iran. Today, it's the 10th day of protests. There have been mass protests, which you've heard of in the media as well. Nearly 200 people have been killed during these protests, and millions have been out on the streets in opposition to the Islamic regime. We know that as a result of the tragic and outrageous killing of one of the protesters, Neda, who's the film footage of her last moments have been seen by many people via YouTube, that people have gone out on the streets in Tehran and commemorated her death by putting flowers. Today in Tehran University, the students have barricaded the gates of the university and put Neda's picture at the front gates, and people have been going in and putting flowers to commemorate her, and all those fallen during these 10 days. We've also received reports now that the regime's security forces have come out in full force, including with machine guns, to try to quell the protests that are taking place. A lot of people continue to say that this has to do with the elections. That's definitely not the case. I'm here with Fariborz, Pooya and Bahram Soroush to discuss it. I suppose the first question is, it obviously has nothing to do with the elections anymore, even if it was initially used as a pretext for people to come out. Can you go deeper into that and talk about that?
Clearly, the fact that people in Iran were sick and tired of the Islamic regime has been going on and brewing for many years, and it came to a head just before the elections. And I think a lot of people use the election as an opportunity to organize themselves. And when it was announced that Ahmadinejad is won the election, clearly everybody knew it is fraudulent, and that effectively broke the levee within the political streets of Tehran, and everybody came out. Although there are forces within the Islamic regime, both factions of the Islamic regime try to contain this within the election and try to channel it through the legal channels, and to question legitimacy of the election, Mousavi's camp. But the reality is that people's need and desire in Iran goes beyond the election and framework that the Islamic government and factions within it are setting. And we've seen that no longer people talk about elections and count my vote, where's my vote, all of those slogans that the reformist opposition within the Islamic regime trying to put forward. People have gone out now. The slogans are deaf to the Islamic regime and deaf to the supreme leader of the Islamic regime. That's the end of. We've seen protests that people actually get women in many parts of Tehran, they've thrown away the veil as a means of protest. And the street battles every day, despite the fact that various factions within the Islamic regime are trying to control it. So, although initially the election was used as a protest, but it is no longer the case. The demand is that the Islamic regime must go. That's important.
Yeah, I think even in the beginning, for anyone who followed the realities of Iranian society, this was not about an election. People used the election in order to vent their anger against the government, to use it as a protest. Prior to the elections, one could see that things were heating up, and we were going to witness a big confrontation. And I think what made the situation worse for the government was that the mind-boggling results that they came up with, despite the fact that a lot of the people expected that the other candidate, Mousavi, would win. So that gave a pretext. They were so angry, people furious, that they came out street, and they used the Mousavi faction as a shelter through which to be able to question the legitimacy not only the elections but of the government itself. So what we have seen, the events have proved that the confrontations, the social confrontations in Iran were never about people having any hopes in any part of the government, but people were waiting for 30 years to get rid of this government, and this election provided the pretext for that. And now, although the media in the beginning, especially abroad, they were given a very shallow picture of the events, as if this is a confrontation between two factions of the government. The realities have moved on so quickly. They have shown in practice that this is a revolution against the Islamic regime, and people are targeting the representative of that government, which is Sayyid Ali Khamenei, and that's where we are at now at the moment.
I mean, some people will say that, well, what if the government backtracks and allows for Mousavi to become president? Given the fact that Mousavi is part and parcel of the system, Khamenei himself came in his address on Friday saying that these are all these four candidates are part of the system. I worked very closely with them. And as Hamid Taqwi said in one of his addresses, he didn't say what he did when he worked closely with him, which is basically cause misery and oppression and brutality for 30 years in that country. But for those people who think that possibly that might be the prospect for Iran, that people will be happy and satisfied if, Khamenei, the supreme leader, backs down and then says, well, Mousavi can take its place. Would that be sufficient for people?
That would be a very unlikely scenario for a number of reasons. One is that Mousavi, he doesn't have a program. I mean, if you ask people what's Mousavi's program, what does he want to improve? Does he want to release political prisoners? Does he want to sort of abandon compulsory bail? Does he want to end sexual apartheid? Does he want to improve the wages of the labor and the working class in Iran? Does he want, to
end executions
and stoning? Does he want to change in the whole interference of religion? He doesn't. He actually wants to maintain the same system. His only thing is that I could do a better job than Ahmadinejad to maintain the system, the Islamic Republic system. That's sort of theoretically, that's he doesn't offer anything any different. The other thing is that it's a very unlikely scenario because Khamenei, if he allows Mousavi to come to power, that's the end of him, because he's already formally said, look, Ahmadinejad, he needs to step down. So there's no opportunity. If he allows Mousavi to come to become president, that end of the Islamic Republic. If he doesn't, effectively this movement is going to continue. So actually it's a great opportunity for the people's movement in Iran to continue, and we are on a winning side effectively, and that's what we represent.
Mousavi is fighting actually for his neck, because we shouldn't forget that there's a real rupture within the government between two factions. Rafsanjani was the heavyweight, the mainstay of the Islamic Republic, and has got Mousavi as his allies, the frontman. And then you have Sayyid Ali Khamenei, the spiritual leader, who has got Ahmadinejad on his side. And all of them have got deep roots within the Islamic Republic. And we shouldn't forget Khatami as well. Amongst them, they have ruled Iran for 30 years. And now there's a rupture amongst them. They're like mafia gangs, bands. They're fighting for their own stake in government, their own wealth, their own power. And the confrontation now between them has reached such a stage they can't compromise anymore. And each one is trying to get rid of the other one. And the fact that they are in this miserable situation from their point of view is because of the protests of the people. And people use the elections to deepen that rift amongst them. So I think Mousavi is a goner. He'll be just somebody people will forget. And as Fariborz said, it's an impossibility for Mousavi to come. And events have moved so far ahead, they can't even compromise. So they don't have a forward move. They are sort of in an impasse, the governments. So,
okay, thank you very much. Well, we've reached the end of this program. Do keep watching us. We're going to give you up-to-date news, and check out the latest developments on the Worker Communist Party of Iran's blog. We'll be back with more news later. Thank you.